Pam Heller, AccuQuilt cutting expert.
And I'm Erica Botker, corporate marketing specialist.
Quilters, AccuQuilt is always looking for ways to make cutting fabric fast, easy, accurate, and safe. The Qube system encompasses all of these benchmarks.
The Mix and Match 5-inch cube will allow you to create blocks in increments of 2.5 and 5 inches. Now, just like all the other cubes, it contains 8 geometric shapes that all work together to make 72 mix and match blocks.
Now, the obvious pairing of this cube would be with the Mix and Match 10-inch cube.
Right? But think outside of that box. You can also make 10-inch blocks using smaller elements of the 8-inch cube, and you can make 5-inch blocks using a 4-inch cube. The combination possibilities are endless.
Remember, all the shapes in every cube are the same 8 shapes. They're just different sizes.
That's right.
Since all the dies in the 5-inch cube are on a 6x6 die board, they will fit through all of our Go cutters, including the Go Me. All right, Erica, let's open up a cube and see all the shapes. All right?
All right.
Ta-da. Now, first, we're going to pull this skinny one first. You want to talk about what's in there?
This is really important because inside you're going to have a pattern booklet with all that you need to help you get started and a cutting mat. And we always need our cutting mat, Pam, right?
Yes, because without it, nothing happens.
That's right.
All right, so let's open up our first 4 shapes in the cube. Now, the thing to remember the most is that the cube system is based on a 4 patch.
That's right.
So shape number 1 in every single cube are square. 4 of these sewn together make what size square, Erica?
It's going to be a 5-inch finished square.
Right. Now, today for our pillow project, we're going to show you how to cut and sew this block.
Yes.
But this is the other block that's inside,
Right.
so we'll talk about it. So for this block, we're actually going to need shape number 2, Erica, which are what?
Those are our small squares. So every cube is going to have a large square, small squares, and 4 of the small squares sewn together is going to be equal to 1 of shape number 1.
Now, shape number 3 is my all-time favorite shape, half square triangles. We've cut off the dog ears.
Yep.
It has that 1/4-inch seam allowance built in, and it's also the corners and the center for our 2 blocks for our pillow project.
That's right.
Shape number 4 is your favorite shape.
This is the 1/4 square triangle, and this is important because they look like half square triangles, but they're laid out so that the lengthwise grain is on the outside of the block, so you get good square blocks.
There you go. So those are the first 4 shapes in the cube, and now let's talk about the next 4 shapes.
That's right.
Now, shape number 5 in every single cube are smaller half square triangles, and that's the shape you're going to need to make this particular block. All right, so you want to follow the instructions on cutting and sewing those. Shape number 6, you want to talk about it, Erica?
So this is our square on point, and it's the shape we get probably the most questions about. It is a square, but the math and the measurements have been done so that shape number 5, those small half square triangles, are going to fit on each of the 4 sides to turn it into a square that is equal to shape number 1.
Excellent. Shape number 7 are parallelograms, and what's important to remember about parallelograms,
That
Erica?
is a directional shape. So you want to be sure you read your pattern and make a test block to make sure that you're laying your fabric out correctly to get the correct direction of that parallelogram for your project.
And shape number 8 in every cube are rectangles. And remember, quilters, sometimes there are multiple shapes on a die board.
That's right.
For example, in this one, there are 2 on the same die board.
And 2 of the rectangles sewn together is going to equal 1 of shape number 1.
Yes. All right, so quilters, we're going to show you how to use the cube shapes by showing you how to cut and sew one of the blocks to make the Go Jubilee Pillow, which is right here behind Erica.
Right here, I love it.
This is a free downloadable pattern on the AccuQuilt website.
Okay, for this project, you really only need 3 dies. And what's really great is that you only need to create 2 different blocks that will be repeated in the pattern. So this block was created already. We've got our large half square triangle.
Right.
And then over here we have our small half square triangles.
Right. Now let's talk about this
Now
block.
this block is the one that we're going to go ahead and cut and sew.
All right, Erica, so let's lay some fabric on these 2 shapes.
Okay, so you're going to need white and black and white polka dot with the large half square triangles.
And here's our big pro tip. Since we're going to sew these shapes together, let's cut them together, and we're going to put right sides together.
That's perfect. Okay, next we need our small squares for these little 4 patches. So here's the white And here's our aqua.
Right,
Love
and
that
if
color.
this was a pattern color, again, we'd put right sides together.
Yes.
Now, we're gonna use our Go Big, so you can cut both of these dies in one pass through the cutter.
We can. All right, there you go.
Perfect, give it some love. They're static is why we give it love.
Yes.
Slide, don't lift. Perfect. And Erica, when I'm doing blocks like this, I have a tendency to leave my pieces on the die, but the first time you're sewing it out, you want to make sure you lay out your block, right?
Okay.
So I am going to sew these half square triangles together since I cut them together, and I'm going to do the same with our squares. And just a second here, I will hand you the iron and let you press these.
All right.
Here is the iron.
Okay, would you like these seams pressed open?
I would like, on these, you can press them to the dark side.
Okay.
And then the same here, so then our rows will nest together, and we'll talk about that. All right. So not only did we cut those quickly, but look how quickly we've sewn them together because we're chain piecing.
And because those dog ears were cut off, there's no trimming involved.
Right. So we'll press to the blue.
Yes, ma'am.
Now I'm going to create these little 4 patches here in the corners. And because Erica pressed to the dark side, now these pieces are going to come right together and that seam is going to lock perfectly. We're going to put right sides together here. And then your seam is going to lay nice and flat. All right, and then Erica, you want to just press those open, that'll lay it flat. All right, I'm going to add this 4 patch. I'm going to make sure I lay it the right way and sew it to our half square triangles. All right, and then if you just want to press them in opposite directions, Erica, we'll get that great effect.
Will do. And again, by doing that, you can nest those seams together and you're going to get that perfect point in the center.
And look at that.
There you go.
Ta-da.
It's perfect. All right, now follow the pattern and create the 4 rows across and the 4 rows down using these 2 different blocks. Then add your borders, layer your batting between your top and your backing, pin or baste your layers together, and quilt as desired.
The pattern also contains pillow assembly instructions on how to finish the project, and you could totally do this in a weekend.
Yes.
Be sure and share your finished projects on our social media pages. We hope you enjoyed this 5-inch cube as it inspires and motivates your creative process.
Because at AccuQuilt, we help you cut time
so you can quilt more.